So how have things been over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, good, good. Busy, but good. There was a soccer tournament of some sort. I'm not sure if it was a preseason friendly type of thing, but they just wrapped that up, so that was fun to watch. MLS preseason and regular season is right around the corner. Yeah, right in the midst of hoop season right now. Man, you brought back flashbacks for me on signing day, man. That was I remember in a previous life having to go to schools. I would have like a whole checklist. Like, all right, 7:45 I have to be at this school, and then 9:15 I have to be at this school, and then 11 o'clock at the like. It was the worst day, and then to then go on air and do like a wrap up show at night. Um, it was a happy day for kids and parents, and not for me. that
Uh,
was that was a stressful day. I'm glad I'm not in that world right now.
as we are all running around, yeah. So when this show is over, that's when I put on my Cruton hat, and the other alter ego works its way through and covers signing day, where it's optimism begins anew for college football fans all over the place
Yeah.
with unrealistic expectations for 17 and 18-year-old men. So that's how it rolls. All right, so we got a lot to talk about today on a couple of different fronts. We have the schedule release, and it's interesting because we go from particular fans and things like that, and you're always looking at your team, sitting there saying who you want to play, and if you've got a rough start, and if you don't have a rough start, you got matches at home. It's a snowbird schedule. Here in Atlanta, folks wanted to go to Austin because Austin came here last year. They don't get to go to Q2. They don't get to go to City Park and take on St. Louis. So that's the minor uproar here in Atlanta this morning. When the schedule came out yesterday, post leaks, what were some of your 30,000-foot takeaways on it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was now. I will preface this by saying I had a basketball game last night, so like I took a quick glance at it and then drove west and dealt with the traffic and got a little bit of a haircut first, and then did my broadcast. So I didn't do a deep dive, to be fair,
Eh,
but I viewed it from the what would my work
there,
season look like,
there you go.
and it's going to be busy on Saturdays. That is for sure. A whole lot of, other than the Fox games, right? Where you've got an earlier game on a Saturday and then that game on the Sunday, which I've always liked as well. You've got a whole lot of 7:30s, 8:30s, 10:30s, so it's going to be busy.
And Coco is asking how many different home venues is NYC going to have this year? It's only two, right?
As of now, there are only two. Yes.
True. Yes. Thank you for the.
There are two TBDs on the schedule. It's going to depend on how the New York baseball teams fare during their seasons. So, I guess if you're a hardcore New York City fan, you pretty much are like hating the Yankees and Mets because you don't want them to make the postseason, because then that you've got a postseason venue, or I should say a late season, because obviously the schedule kind of this year goes back to its normal state, right? So you've got late October regular season games as opposed to playoff games this year. But yeah, and as I thought it would be more balanced. I thought there'd be more City Field games, but as I've said here before, I do like the idea. And you heard in the release, Brad Sims of NYCFC said, look, now that we've got a home in Queens, we want to have our fans get acclimated to that and to the area. So there's more home games at City Field this year, which I think is a good thing. I would hope that they would trend more towards City Field going forward, right? Like, I don't know if you have to have a certain amount of games at Yankee Stadium or not, but the breakdown, I don't have it in front of me, but I know there's more Yankee Stadium games, but not by many. And I would hope going forward that trend would go more towards, or skew more towards, City Field.
One of the there are a couple of other topics that I wanted to get into in with you this morning. One, Leagues Cup, because Leagues Cup was a big discussion in hour number one. It kind of morphed from the schedule and looking at the murderous travel that you're going to see sometimes in 3 matches in 8 days for some teams, to the Pablo Maurer Sam Stejskal article that came out yesterday, where there are, and this is the wording from Pablo Maurer, MLS is considering big changes to its playoff format. Changes would more than double the number of postseason matches. One potential avenue is shift to a World Cup-style competition with 4 groups of 4 teams. The second sentence, obviously, when you have a new broadcast partner that is looking to maximize revenue, you would try to find a way to get more games on your product. So it is told to Maurer and to Stejskal. Total overhaul of the postseason. World Cup style competition. Top 8 teams in each conference advance into a group stage. The top 8 group stage finishers advancing into a single elimination bracket. Multiple sources told Maurer league still ironing out the finer points of the postseason plans, but the rough outline of all this was shared with club soccer officers during meetings in Florida last week. So there you go. We could have an overhaul of the playoff format. What say you, Dylan Butler?
Yeah, I think we have actually discussed this before. I was trying to think in my head, like, is this Groundhog's Day? Because I know that we've discussed this before.
Right.
This topic has come up before, and look, this is kind of how these things always happen, right? Like, they quote sources, but it's usually like the league floats it to whether it's the Athletic or SI or whatever, and you want to take the temperature of the fan base, right, and kind of see what that idea might feel like. I don't like it. I don't see what I think it seriously lessens the regular season, right? Like, if you're gonna then go ahead and play almost another kind of season, like a World Cup group stage, like the group stage part of it, I don't get. You and I are both team 2 legs of playoffs, and to me, that's like that's the way that you add extra games, right? Like, I like the idea of say a wild card game, and then even if you want to increase the field, right, have a wild card game, and then go into 2 legs, going through the playoffs, and then you've got your cup, but they generally don't go backwards, right? In these things, you try to go forwards and be more innovative. So since it's the second time around that we're hearing about this, my guess is it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
No. And then if this was to happen, this gets into our Leagues Cup discussion that we were having in hour number one, because we go from talking about the schedule to the places that you wanted to go and your starts, and then it's like, okay, then there's this month gap where you're playing Leagues Cup, and you are, and our Australian watcher Bam, who was up at 1 o'clock in the morning when we started the show, his time. Basically, you could have teams playing 50 matches in a year with the way things could be laid out, with regular season, probable playoffs, and then Leagues Cup if you get out of group stage.
Open Cup, Champions League.
Yeah, and so right now you're looking at the possibility, probably fairly certainly sure, that under the current roster constructs and limitations that we're seeing in Major League Soccer, you're going to see teams tank a tournament, probably Leagues Cup, maybe, because of all of this layout, because of the inability to bring players up from your MLS Next or any your academies and things like that. Because of the constrictions that you have in player availability, you're going to have marquee teams not being as involved as the league wants them to be in these tournaments, or in multiple tournaments, probably, just because of how things are structured. And that sucks if you're trying to put a new face on things, but that's the reality of how things are right now. We see it in England. I made the point we see it in England with FA Cup and Gummy Bear and all those other ones. Teams that are marquee teams are checking out of these other tournaments that don't mean anything. And you're going to see teams.
And they don't have the same roster constraints.
Right. And they still don't have the same roster constraints. And the roster constraints in Major League Soccer are going to make it worse, I think. So I think Major League Soccer is going to have to have a come to their Lord and Savior meeting about roster constriction and cap constriction because of all this stuff.
For sure. I would imagine that the easy solution would be a freer sort of releasing of players from your MLS Next Pro team up to the first team, but again, that's just going to mean that an Open Cup game, or as you said, a Leagues Cup game, you're going to have second, tier players in games that you're hoping would be showcase games.
Yeah.
So for sure, I think that's that's the struggle, the wrestling match right now. Like, you want, as a league, to grow your brand and play on this high level. And listen, I applaud the fact that you could be playing 50 matches. Like, great. That's exactly what a Liverpool or a Manchester City or a PSG do, right? But they also don't have any roster constraints. So I think if you want to do that, then you've got to have a lot more roster flexibility, have more salary flexibility.
Yeah.
So that's the yin and the yang of it, I guess.
Yeah, but and I know that we're old men shouting at clouds here, which we've been doing a lot this morning on the show. But it's like you're in the first year of a new TV deal. You know that your broadcast partners, they have a certain level of expectation when it comes to their broadcast product. It's like, okay, we have this product. We're broadcasting all these games. We have all these competitions. We have all this stuff laid out. There is that what's the mug this morning, by the way?
I went. I'm never good with showing it. It's right there.
There it is.
It's a lasso.
It must be a goldfish. There we go.
Yeah.
And you have all of these things that are squared away here, and I would imagine when we start to see whether it's an Open Cup or Leagues Cup or what have you, that you're going to see these marquee teams starting to tank. I imagine there's going to be some conversations from the broadcast partners in the league sitting there going, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? And it may force the league's hand when we see things that the broadcast partner is not happy with, considering that they've invested 2 double extra large in this over the next 10 years.
No, for sure. That's what makes the world go around, right? Like the broadcast fees and the TV deals. It's funny when you were saying that about seeing maybe youth players or second team players. I always think of like Liga MX, where exactly when that guy is on the field because they've got like a number 236 on the back of their jersey.
Yes.
So how funny would that be? Just seeing a whole bunch of like triple digit numbers on both teams running around in a game that you're trying to sell as super important and a battle between the two leagues.
Yeah, and the glass and steel monolithic office building that is in charge of the Apple and the TV and the Plus. They're sitting there going, the look on their face like the Leonardo DiCaprio, the meme where he's kind of pointing at the screen, holding the beer and the cigarette, going. You have one of those moments because all the games.
Some exact like looking like, wait, I don't have this guy on my depth chart for like the star players for Atlanta. I don't have this guy. Like,
no,
who's this guy?
Yeah, but I think what it can do is it can give the league the opportunity to sit there and check the development of all of the academies and all the teams that are investing in this way. And it can showcase the academy if you give it the chance to do so, but you can't do it under the current constraints of the roster builds and displays.
And therein lies the
it's the conundrum of the morning.
Correct.
on a wall pass Wednesday. You know, all right. So I know that we've got you for another 5 minutes or so because you have it's high school hoops, right?
It is high school hoops. I covered the last two games I covered featured Kyan Anthony, who is Carmelo Anthony's son.
Wow. Okay.
So Carmelo was we did a game, Cardinal Hayes and Christ the King, a whole lot of Division One players. John Calipari was courtside, as was Carmelo Anthony and Lala, watching their son. He's only a sophomore, Kyan Anthony. Somehow already has an offer from Syracuse. So go figure.
Gee, I wonder how that happened. All right. So we've also had some roster movement. Some players have been shifting from one place to another, whether it's out of country or coaches have shifted. Wilfred Nancy's now in Columbus. Players.
A big move just happened too. Just as we were speaking, it became official. Aaron Herrera from Real Salt Lake to CF Montreal, which I think is a terrific move. I think CF Montreal, you have to give them a lot of credit. They've made some, I think, really good moves. Like first, thinking back to getting Alistair Johnston, right, from Nashville, I thought that was a steal.
Yep.
And I think this could potentially be another one of those steals as well. I've been a big Aaron Herrera fan. I love the move for Montreal to get him.
Yeah, and I know that Jossie Zardes has moved. I'm trying to think of the others off the top. And here's a move that's really going to shake the foundations of everything. Mazatlan, the Kraken, grabbing Akeloba probably from Nashville, and Nashville sitting there going, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, getting Akeloba off our hands." When it is silly season. Super draft today. We are flying around, which is kind of what we need to do on Wednesdays. Super draft today. Do you have any expectations? What when we talk about super draft, when you go and wander into super draft discussions, what is your legitimate expectation of a super draft? Just that it happens and no one gets hurt?
No, to be fair, I think there's still it's not as much obviously as in the past, but there's still value there, right? Like you could still get a guy who could play a role for your team, right? Like I don't think you could really see it beyond the first round anymore. But I mean, look at like the Revs these last couple of years, right? Henry Kessler and Brandon By and even Tajon Buchanan, right? These are all guys who were selected in the super draft. So, I would be lying to you if I could tell you I've watched any film on any of these guys.
Right.
My understanding is that, there's some wingers who are available in this one. There's some central defenders. It feels like central defender is a position that does well in the super draft.
Yeah.
Walker Zimmerman, another guy, right? Selected in the super draft. So I would say I kind of do miss the old days of, being there. And I remember I was there for so many, but like I remember Josie Altidore being selected, up on the stage, I think with Lallis and might have been Bob Bradley at the time too. Those were the old days of it, right? Like when it was, you hit the hotel bar the night before trying to figure out what the trades are, all that kind of stuff. Like it's not happening anymore. Because of obviously all these other mechanisms that the league has to get players, and so many of the youth players are obviously coming now through academies. So it dilutes the water a little bit with a thing like the super draft. But I think there's still some players there like that you can see, especially those high end guys, the Generation Adidas guys who could have an impact. Like you look back at the last couple of drafts, there's been some misses obviously, but there's also been some hits along the way as well.
No doubt about it. And 5 o'clock, we'll keep an eye on super draft. Ricky Ricardo, when you were discussing your last 2 high school basketball games, he goes, "Lala was there." That's the best part of all you just said.
So Ricky, funny part here is, and we had it we mentioned it on our broadcast. It's on Varsity Media on like YouTube.
Yep.
You can go back and watch the game. But Kyan Anthony, like there's no room in this gym at Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx, right on the Grand Concourse there, just in the shadows of Yankee Stadium. Kyan Anthony drives baseline and like almost runs right into Lala. like she pushes him back, like get out of here. Thankfully, Cayenne's, he's still a rail thin boy, so easy to push him back. But yeah, no, that was pretty funny, and we had fun with that on the broadcast as well.
And I just had a Sebastian Telfair flashback. You're mentioning that those kinds of
Yeah,
the rail splitters, the rail splitters
from Lincoln. Yeah,
so Varsity Media on YouTube if you want to catch Dylan and the pipes and the crowded gyms and Lala and the continuing sagas of Anthony's watching folks get to the next level. All right, go for the promo. What's going on? What do folks need to know other than Varsity Media on YouTube for Dylan? What's going on?
Yeah, appreciate that. The my next broadcast is it's supposed to be Friday at 7:45, and I think weather issues push it up to noon on Friday now. So a noon tip off between Iona Prep and Cardinal Hayes. Cardinal Hayes has Ian Jackson, who is the number 2 ranked junior in the country by ESPN. So that's a lot of fun. One of the big reasons why Calipari was in the gym the other day. So I've got that, and then I've got a cool one for OSDB Sports. Gonna speak with Carly Lloyd tomorrow.
Ooh,
just a little catch up with Carly, and kind of obviously she just came off of broadcasting with Fox in Qatar, and kind of seeing how she's doing with her post playing career. Snow forecast, Jason. I don't know, man. I can never get caught up with those things. Like you always hear, like
inches.
We could get less than an inch, or it could be 12 to 8 if it goes a certain way. Like I don't deal with it. I look out my window. Do I have to shovel? Yes. No. Okay.
Sam Champion sits there and says one thing. Amy Freeze would say something else, and then you're just like, yeah, okay, we'll go to the mid ground. All right,
this is what those guys live for, man. It's all about like the snow forecast and
dude. It is
and
it is about breaking news and breaking wind. That's what it's all about when it comes to the news business. We will catch up with you next week, my friend. And
actually, no, John. I have a rare week off, so I want to wish you and everybody watching and listening happy holidays. Certainly have a great time with your families.
Yes.
Some time away from the sport if it's even possible. But we'll catch up in the new year for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And just so Dylan, thank you for everything that you've done with us here in 22. We'll catch up with you in 23. And then we get to talk about all of the soccer-based Christmas stuff that you've got and how you celebrate your New Year. Get out of here. Go to your conference call. We'll catch up with you after the first of the year.
All right, buddy.